supported my campaign for re-election, this outcome is disappointing. But I want you to know that I will forever be grateful for your trust in me and for your support of my candidacy. I also know that to the majority of you who voted, this outcome is a reflection of your collective will to have a change of government. And so it is only right that I concede defeat out of respect for your will as citizens and out of respect for the Constitution. But regardless of whether or not you voted, and regardless of how you voted, if you are a Malawian citizen anywhere in the world, I want to thank you for conducting yourself throughout this election in a peaceful, orderly, and lawful manner. Most importantly, I want to thank the Lord God Almighty and all of you for the incredible privilege you gave me for the past 5 years to serve as your 6th president.
Stop scrolling, because Malawi just got a political plot twist big enough to make a Netflix writer jealous. President Lazarus Chakwera, right in the middle of vote-counting chaos, decides to pull a mic drop moment, a national address. Yup, while ballots were still warm from the tally, he popped up on every TV and radio like, hey guys, let's chat. So what did he actually say? Did he own up? Did he dodge? Or did he do that classic politician shuffle where you apologize with one hand and point fingers with the other? Buckle in. We've got 7 razor-sharp takes that break down this speech like a viral TikTok thread, but with more facts and less dance moves. You're watching Global Pulse News, where global politics isn't boring, it's binge-worthy. If you like your news spicy and your breakdowns sharper than your uncle's political rants at dinner, smash that subscribe button. Let's go. Now here's where it gets juicy. Chakwera opens his speech with the classic soft piano line, I respect the will of the electorate. Sounds noble, right? Very statesman-y, like he's channeling Mandela with a dash of Obama. But before you cue the violin music, let's pause. Because almost immediately after acknowledging Malawians are hurting, inflation skyrocketing, food insecurity biting harder than your auntie's chili, droughts, fuel shortages, he flips the switch. Suddenly, it's not just about his government's shortcomings. Oh no, he suggests that other forces are to blame too. The exact line? Warning about actors attempting to hijack the process. Translation, yes, things are rough, but it's not all me. Don't cancel me yet. This is what we call a half concession. It's like when your friend says, I'm sorry I was late, but traffic was insane, and honestly, you should have told me earlier anyway. It's contrition wrapped in a get-out-of-jail-free card. And make no mistake, this isn't just word salad. It's strategic framing. He wants to look humble while planting seeds of suspicion. Classic playbook. That's subtle bait. Admit just enough guilt to look human, then slide blame into someone else's lap. But what's even spicier? When a leader decides to play both the victim and the hero. Stick around because that's exactly where Chakwera swerved next. Every good magician knows the trick. While you're staring at his right hand, the real move happens with the left. In Chakwera, he practically pulled a rabbit out of the ballot box. He doubled down on warnings of disinformation campaigns, manipulated ballots, and sabotage. Now, did he roll out PowerPoint slides with hard evidence? Nope. Did he wave around signed affidavits? Negative. But that's not the point. The power of suggestion is the real magic here. When a sitting president tells you the process might be hijacked, suddenly every smudge on a ballot looks like a conspiracy, and every delayed tally feels like a coup. Here's the kicker. He doesn't need to prove it right now. All he has to do is cast enough doubt that when the final results drop, and spoiler, they're not in his favor, his supporters already have a ready-made excuse. Think of it like preheating the oven of skepticism so it's nice and hot when the dish of defeat comes out. And let's not ignore the irony. The same man praising institutions for holding firm is also planting whispers that someone is fiddling in the shadows. That's like telling your spouse, honey, I totally trust you, while simultaneously checking the GPS tracker you secretly installed. Bold, messy, and intentional. But wait, casting suspicion is one thing. Turning ordinary Malawians into frontline watchdogs? That's next-level crowdsourcing. And yes, Chakwera went there. Here's where he dropped the rallying cry. Silence now is consent. Boom. With one line, Chakwera basically deputized the entire nation as democracy's neighborhood watch. He called on citizens not to sit back, but to become defenders of democracy. Imagine grandma in the village who just wanted to listen to her soap opera suddenly being told she is now an election monitor. Wild, right? But there's brilliance here. By framing vigilance as patriotic duty, he shifts responsibility away from government alone. If irregularities pop up, it's no longer just on the Election Commission, it's on all of Malawi to say we saw it, we stopped it. In PR terms, that's a masterstroke. In practical terms, that's messy. Because while some citizens might take it as a noble call to arms, others might see it as a green light to stir unrest, shout fraud, or, let's be honest, go viral on TikTok with unverified evidence. It's risky, but it's also effective at buying him breathing space. If you're losing ground in numbers, you win in narrative. And calling the people your co-guards of democracy makes you sound less like a cornered politician and more like a righteous crusader. Clever packaging, risky delivery. But if he's handing out superhero badges to everyday Malawians, what about the actual referees of the game? The Electoral Commission. Oh, you know he had words for them too. And not the sweet, gentle kind. That's where we head next.
So, after deputizing the entire nation as guardians of democracy, Chakwera turned his gaze toward the big dogs in the room, the Malawi Electoral Commission. Now, you'd think this would be a straight pep talk, keep up the good work, folks, kind of vibe. And to be fair, he did sprinkle in praise, calling MEC resilient under pressure and acknowledging their massive role in keeping the process intact. But then, he couldn't resist adding the fine print. Move with speed, transparency, and zero bias. Sounds nice, right? But read between the lines. That's like telling your waiter, great service so far, but don't spit in my soup. It's not pure encouragement, it's a backhanded reminder. Translation, I'm watching you, don't screw me. And this is where Chakwera's tone gets fascinating. He's simultaneously buttering up the referees while also warning them that the crowd is watching. It's like praising a referee in a soccer match while also screaming, better call those fouls fair, buddy, or we riot. This wasn't a speech to MEC alone, it was a message to the public too, that even the arbiters of democracy can't be fully trusted unless the people keep them in check. So the commission is both applauded and put on notice in the same breath. Classic politician two-step. Clap with one hand, slap with the other. But why clap and slap at the same time? Because Chakwera wasn't just addressing people in suits at MEC, he was hinting at unseen players, shadowy forces, saboteurs, the infamous they. And that's where we hit the spiciest part of his speech. You know how horror movies get scarier when you never actually see the monster? That's basically the strategy Chakwera pulled. He warned of undisclosed forces working to manipulate results quietly. No names, no receipts, no villain twirling a mustache on camera, just the idea of shady hands in the system. And honestly, that's powerful, because a named enemy can be fought. A faceless ghost, that lingers. This is the oldest leadership trick in the book. Warn people about a threat, but keep it vague. It creates tension, paranoia, and the sense that only you see the danger clearly. And here's the kicker. Vague threats are harder to disprove. If he had said, this party is rigging ballots, he'd need evidence. But if he says, there are forces at work, well, how do you fact-check a ghost? For his supporters, this lands like gospel truth. Our leader sees what we don't. He's protecting us. For opponents, it looks like excuse-making. But politically, it keeps him relevant, keeps him framed as the only man who can name the monster, even if he never actually does. But here's the danger. If your entire argument rests on invisible enemies, people start asking, what happens if the monster never shows up? And that's why Chakwera shifted gears into reminding everyone just how necessary his leadership really is. The classic pivot. Remind people how bad things were before you, how bad things could be without you, and how hard you've been fighting in between. Chakwera leaned heavily into this. He rattled off the laundry list of crises he's had to manage.
Droughts, food shortages, inflation, fuel scarcity. Basically the greatest hits album of national pain. But the spin, I inherited these problems, I've been battling them non-stop, and trust me, you wouldn't want anyone else in this hot seat. It's the political equivalent of saying, yeah, the house is on fire, but imagine how much worse it would have been if I wasn't here with this tiny bucket of water. On paper, it sounds defensive, but rhetorically, it's genius. Because now instead of measuring his success, people are measuring the disaster he prevented. That's not campaigning on wins, that's campaigning on hypothetical losses. Smart, sly, and survivalist. And it works because fear of the unknown often beats frustration with the present. You might hate how your current phone lags, but hey, what if switching brands makes it worse? That's exactly the psychology Chakwera tapped into. Stick with me because the alternative could be scarier than the status quo. But Chakwera wasn't about to end his speech on a doom and gloom pity party. Nope, he pulled out the politician's favorite dessert course, promises. And oh, he served 'em hot, piping. And now the grand finale. Chakwera knows you can't leave an audience hanging on complaints and paranoia, so he whipped out the hope sandwich. First slice, he acknowledged pain and irregularities. Second slice, he promised reforms. The filling in between, a rallying cry for unity. He promised to overhaul procurement systems, tighten corruption crackdowns, and strengthen accountability measures. Basically, he pitched himself as the anti-corruption superhero Malawi didn't know it needed, which, to be honest, is a bold move when you're already on trial in the court of public opinion. But the best part? He dropped some zingers meant to stick. Lines like, "We must not let our democracy be hijacked." That's meme-worthy, tweet-worthy, and campaign-worthy all in one. It's the kind of phrase that ends up on posters, t-shirts, or angry opposition banners depending on who's using it. And he ended on a carefully balanced note, calling for calm, unity, and vigilance. It's the triple play. Calm the chaos, inspire the faithful, and warn the skeptics. This wasn't just a speech. It was a strategic pivot, equal parts damage control, image management, and narrative seeding for whatever comes next. If it works, he walks away as the underdog fighter for democracy. If it flops, well, it's a concession dressed as a resistance song. And that brings us full circle. Because the real question isn't just what Chakwera said, it's what happens next. And trust me, the sequel's already writing itself. Wrap up. The aftermath questions. So where does this leave Malawi and Chakwera? Here are the 5 cliffhangers to watch. Will the opposition clap back with hard receipts or let his ghost stories fade on their own? Can MEC prove they're beyond reproach, or will doubt keep eroding their credibility? Will citizens actually mobilize as guardians of democracy, or was that line just a dramatic flourish? Does Chakwera's necessary leader framing keep his base intact, or will fatigue finally crack it? And finally, how will history remember this speech? As a graceful concession or a desperate last stand? Whatever happens, one thing's certain. This wasn't just a national address, it was a political gambit, a narrative seed planted in the soil of uncertainty. And only time will tell if it blooms into redemption or withers as regret. So fam, what do you think? Was Chakwera a humble statesman tonight, or a political Houdini pulling his last trick? Drop your hottest takes in the comments. I read them all, even the spicy ones. And hey, if you like this breakdown, smash that like button like it owes you money, share this video with someone who needs the tea, and of course, subscribe to Global Pulse News. Because let's be real, where else are you getting global politics with this much caffeine in the delivery? Stay sharp, stay skeptical, and stay tuned, because this drama is far from over. Catch you in the next one.